FM24 is back, and it is tougher than ever. Well, if you're managing the teams in this video, that is. Brace yourselves, because today I'm going to be showing you the 5 hardest save games to do in FM24. One of the teams in this countdown has never won a league game. They're in their 3rd season of real-life existence. There's a reason they've not won a league game. We'll get to it. If you'd like to see more top 5 videos like this one, leave your suggestions down in the comments. If you're new here, subscribe. Let's get into number 5, shall we? So coming in at number 5, we have a team in Austria, a nation I don't think I've ever managed in FM. We are managing FK Austria Vienna. And at first glance, you might look at them and go, Jack, what's the challenge here? They play in the Conference League. They're a top half team. On the pitch, this team is fine for now. Off the pitch, it's a slightly different story. You are going to start with £15 million negative in the overall bank balance and debt and loans to pay off. In fact, you can see here, there is £54 million worth of loans to pay off over the next 20 years. FK Austria Vienna were the last team to win the Austrian Premier League before RB Salzburg came along and just ruined the league, frankly. They won it back in 2013. Since then, things haven't really gone to plan. If you want to sign some players, don't think about it. You've got no transfer budget, no wage budget, and fundamentally, to keep this club afloat, you are going to have to sell on players. I mean, the good news is you have got young assets to sell. The club's academy is good. You will produce some really good young players. Players like Huskovic here, got some really good potential, could lead you to a title. If it wasn't for the fact the board are probably going to sell him. Brown Order is another good player, 21 years old, some potential, but again, you're very likely to lose him. Manuel Polster, great player, also listed, due to the club's perilous financial position. The board expectations for your first season are to achieve a top half finish in Austria. Beyond that, they want you to repair the club's financial damage and work towards developing the best youth system in the country. Those two things kind of feel at odds with each other. Ultimately here, you are going to be hemorrhaging money. Every single month, you are paying £225,000. Of course, the ultimate aim with this save game is going to be to become the dominant force in Austrian football, to displace Salzburg, maybe go on and make Austria one of the best leagues in Europe. Is there the potential for that? Definitely. There's some crazy talent in this league. Is that possible with Austria Vienna? It's going to be bloody hard. Now, my top 5 teams to manage video, I already did one team in China, in Guangzhou Evergrande, and I alluded to the fact there's probably a more challenging save out there in China. That club is Shenzhen. Now, you'll notice here, when you join the club, there is no director of football, there is no assistant manager, your financial status is insecure, and everything's going wrong at this football club. As you can see here, when you first arrive at the team, you will be informed you have a global transfer ban until the 31st of January 2024. You can make no signings for your first season. Here is your first team. Now, good news, these players that are listed as unavailable will be available to play for you eventually. I say eventually. In the case of Daiwai here, end of the season. Alessandrini, though, who may be a familiar face to football fans out there, don't fret. He's back at the start of next month, so you will at least have him to start the season. The wages at this club are absolutely hilarious. You've got, what, 5 players on over £5,000 a week? Everyone else is on £2,000 or less. And the quality at this club, it drops off rather quickly. Shenzhen are a club with a little bit of history as well. They won the Chinese top flight as recently as 2004. Things haven't exactly gone to plan since. From a financial point of view, you've got £1 million in the bank. That'll last a little while, but with your wage budget being completely spent, no transfer budget, not that you could spend it anyway, first season's going to be hard here. I mean, good news, you're not predicted to finish bottom. That honour goes to Dalian Pro. Good news for them, their transfer ban ends halfway through the season. I do think they're an easier save for that reason alone. There is also debt at Shenzhen. You currently have £21 million left to pay on loans. That's going to take a while to sort out. Board's objectives for year 1, avoid relegation. Yeah, good luck with that. The bottom 2 teams go down. Beyond that, they want you to work towards repairing the club's financial damage and also recoup funds through player sales. Year 1, and it's required, the board want you to sell players. You're going to have to sell some players, but you can't sign any replacements for the players you let go. And if you sat there thinking, well, Jack, this is the first team, surely they have a youth team. Enjoy. Enjoy. Yeah, that's your youth team. Chinese football is in a complete state of flux now. Shenzhen are very much a victim of that. If you want a challenging save, slugging it out with some rather wealthy teams with no means by which to improve the team, deal with the hand you're dealt, see what you can do. If you keep them up, I'd be impressed. Coming in at number 3, we have Southend United of the National League. Yeah, if you're an English viewer, of which 40% of my audience here on YouTube are, you might have wanted to save closer to home. I've got one for you. Now, I will say, media prediction 17th. It doesn't feel like the worst thing in the world. Like Shenzhen, though, you will be under a transfer embargo. Here at Southend, at least it's only for half the season. Not so good news. You will start on minus 10 points to start the year, whilst under that transfer embargo, and your first team, it doesn't look great. I mean, what potentially makes this worse is all your good players towards the top here actually are on non-contracts. These guys can just piss off on freeze at any points. Players like Nathan Ralph, who looks like a quality player, could just go walkies if you're not careful, and teams will be interested in him. Financially, there is some money in the bank. Sadly, there is no wage budget or transfer budget to speak of, and on top of that, there is plenty of debt to pay off. It may only look like £180,000 a month. As a team in the National League, that's a lot of money to pay off. Your one saving grace might be that the board are looking to sell the club. The current owner is willing to listen to offers. Maybe by the time January comes around and you're no longer under a transfer embargo, you'll be able to spend some money because you'll actually have some money to spend. Year 1, your board expectation is to attempt to avoid relegation from the National League. That is going to be a tough ask. That said, you have got the board culture here to develop young players, and in and amongst all the disaster going on here, there are actually some players with a little bit of potential. Players like Ollie Coker could be a good player to build around. In the goalkeeping position, you've got here Colin Andeng Ndi, who is not a bad goalkeeper at 19 years old at all. What I will concede is I am very much clutching at straws looking at these younger players. They might have potential. They could be good, but they're not really going to solve any of the issues you've got immediately. If you're someone who doesn't like to adventure too far into the obscure, Southend might be the team for you. Negative points to start the season, transfer embargo, lots of debt to pay off. It's going to be tricky. It's going to be tough. You might lose some of your first team players. If you can keep them up, that would be a really good achievement. For number 2 today, we are heading to South America and the 7th biggest city in Brazil. In spite of that, Manaus play in the 3rd division. Now, you will notice here on the club profile screen, this club were founded in 2013. Their owner set up the club after leaving the board of local rivals Nacional. He'd had enough, I don't know the backstory, mad beef, decided to set up a club as a form of protest. It's always a little bit concerning, isn't it, when the assistant here gives you the team report of the starting 11 and he can't actually fill the starting 11. There's just gaps. Now, if the name Manaus sounds familiar, you may have heard it during the Brazil World Cup a few years ago. England actually played a game in Manaus. It was the stadium where everyone complained because it was in the middle of nowhere, really poor conditions. Manaus actually, I believe, used to play at that World Cup stadium. You don't anymore. You're playing in an 11,000-seat stadium. It doesn't look that impressive, really. So you are going to be playing in the Brazil 3rd tier here. What makes Manaus challenging, first and foremost, is you have the lowest wage total in the league. Salary per year, £127,000 a year. To put that in comparison, Paysandu, the highest earning team, they pay their players £1.5 million a year. Yeah, your wage budget is 10 times lower than the teams at the top. Board expectations for year 1, avoid relegation. I mean, that doesn't sound too difficult until you realise the bottom 4 teams go down and you are predicted to finish right down there amongst them. Now, as I already mentioned, the starting 11 on the team report couldn't get filled out. The reason for that is this is your team to start the save game. And if you're wondering about the youth team, there is no youth team. I mean, of the players actually at the club, 3 of them are in on loan as well. So slightly less than ideal. No one has a contract for more than a year. Jefferson, who probably could be a useful player for you, he's out on loan for the year. You can't recall him. So yeah, tough. And you could be forgiven for looking at the star ratings thinking, well, they've all got great star ratings. They all must be good. Just a reminder, the star ratings are completely relative to the rest of your squad. Believe me when I say, while some of these players are half decent, you can't win an 11-a-side league with 7 players. If there's one bright spot to this team, you've got a striker called Levy here who's 17 years old, a little bit of potential, maybe someone you can build around. And on top of that, there is some money to spend. There isn't really. There is no transfer budget. You have a wage budget remaining of about £500. So if you think you can finish off this team on £500, yeah, good luck, Godspeed. First season is going to be so challenging. Can you stay up in the Serie C? It's going to be tough. Oh, and the facilities at the club, I didn't mention them. You've got grey stars for youth recruitment. For the uninitiated, that means they're really bad. Okay, in at number 1, this might be the most obscure team I've ever covered in Football Manager. Hong Kong under-23s. Not the national team. There's literally a team called Hong Kong's under-23s. Now, this team play in the Hong Kong Premier League and have done since their founding in 2021. They've never won a league game, like in the last 2.5 seasons. They've drawn 1 game this season, I believe. Now, this team came to be after a few different teams within the Hong Kong Premier League folded, and the brains of the operation decided, we'll make a team that can only play under 23 players. I say only, you are allowed 3 over 23 players, which is probably a good job because your key player, Lam Hock Hae, is 32 years old. But he is your best player, so probably play him. Their first team has got bags and bags of potential, allegedly. I mean, I feel like with this team, you may be able to win a Hong Kong Premier League eventually. It's going to be tough, not just because this is your team, but also because the league rules have a special rule just for you that means that your matchday squad can't have 3 players over the age of 23. So as soon as a player turns 23 years old, as some of these players here have, you're either going to want to sell them or decide they're one of your 3 magical players you should keep. Essentially, don't get attached to anyone because as soon as they turn 24, unless they're good enough to play as one of your 3 over 23 players, they're basically useless. Season preview does have you down finishing rock bottom. So 600 to 1 odds of winning the league. The next worst odds, 3 times better than yours. The Hong Kong Premier League, by the way, is dominated by Kitchee. They are a mad team. They have a load of money. Their wage spend per year is stupid compared to everyone else. Their salary per year, £3.5 million. Your salary per year, £261,000. Yeah, good luck. Another rule I've not mentioned, the Hong Kong Premier League has a wage cap. Your budget for your wages is allowed to be 50% of your turnover. You don't have a lot of turnover. There's not that many people coming to watch a team that have never won a game of football before. I wish I could sit here and say, but your youth recruitment's really good because you're the under-23s team. No, it's not. All your facilities are pretty goddamn awful as well. Board expectation for the next 5 years, just attempt to avoid finishing bottom. If you don't finish bottom, the board consider that a success in the next 5 years. Yeah, expectations are low here. And you might have noticed as well, club rule. Yeah, not many club rules you have. You cannot sign non-Hong Kong players. It's going to be hard. It's going to be really difficult, this save game. I would love to see a wave of people giving this save game a go. Only being able to sign players from Hong Kong, limited on the number of players over the age of 23 that you can play, selling your best young players to your rivals when they get too old. Essentially, you are acting as a factory for all the other teams in the division to develop their talent, which is going to make your long-term aim rather difficult. Bags of potential, but no current ability. They've never won a game. Maybe you can be the man to bring it to them. Hong Kong's under-23s. I think deservedly so. I'm going to label them the hardest team to manage this year. It's going to be bloody difficult if you give this one a go. Anyway, folks, I hope this video gave you some inspiration for your next Football Manager save game. If it didn't, check out the series playlist. I'll put a card thing in the top corner. Thank you so much for watching this video. If any of the teams down here did appeal to you, or maybe there's a team I ignored and didn't discover whilst researching this video, let me know your suggestion down in the comments. Besides that, take things easy. It's me, Jack, and I'll see you again very soon. I'm out.